So it's not all about the money then, Jonathan, is it?
No, it's not. I think there's interesting things, historical things out there within the world of watches that you just bypass. If you saw these at a car boot sale, I think even you'd probably just walk past them because they don't look that inspiring.
But these are part of your own private collection.
Things I've picked up, yeah, not because they're worth fortunes, they're not. They're really not worth masses of money, but they've all got their own little stories to tell.
And I think that's the interesting thing with objects, watches, anything at all, the stories behind them.
Sometimes it's the research, it's just getting the book out and finding out little bits more as it's giving you clues as to what it is, and then you can find something. And with the internet now, it's even easier.
But you love it, don't you? And that's part of it.
I bought these before the internet, so that's how.
Did you? How long have you had these for?
Oh God, I must have had that one for probably 25 years.
Right. Do you ever wear them?
No.
You should, with your nice...
I know, but it's, well, you can't. Look at that. There's no way of wearing that.
Oh, well, let's have a look at that. Well, tell us about this one then. Oh my God, that's unusual.
There's no loop on it at all. So that's when you start looking, what is this thing?
Yeah, show it to
with
me.
An old black dial on it.
Well, hang on a minute, Jonathan. What is this thing?
Well, so we look on, see what it is. So you can't wear it. That's the first thing. And that stem is bigger than a normal stem.
Okay.
So that would think that you'd probably clip it into something or put it onto a stand or something.
Show it to me. Yeah, well, that's what I would expect. Is it a bedside clock?
No, it's more exciting than that.
Go on.
So we've got on here that it's a Mark
to me.
5. A Mark 5. What does that mean?
Don't ask me, you're supposed to know.
Well, these are the questions you've got to go and think, why are they making something of the fact that it's not luminous when luminous was the real thing? They were painting them. It was a big deal. It was a new thing to make watches luminous. So why are they making a point that that isn't?
Are these the kind of questions you ask yourself when you're examining an object?
Yeah, with something like this, certainly.
I've
seen them before, so I did know what that was. But
you talk me through it as I look at it.
Okay, so the big thing is this,
yeah,
which means that it's to clip onto something, to put onto something. Very easy to read. You can't mistake that, can you?
Not at all.
You'd think it would be luminous, but it's not. So there must be a reason that it's not luminous. You're turning the back over there, and then we get in the big giveaway. The A with the MOD.
Yeah, so it's a military watch.
Military watch. A for Army, but unusually, this came out when the Royal Flying Corps was still part of the Army.
Oh, wow.
So this would clip onto the aircraft. So this is a Royal Flying Corps, 30 hours. And the reason that they made a point of it not being luminous was because these things vibrated so much. The lume paint used to come off and stop the watch. So they learned very quickly not to do that. So that's why it's part of the spec is that it must not be luminous.
So this watch
was
designed to fly.
It was designed to fly, adapted to fly.
So this would have been seen action or watches like this, certainly during the First World War.
Yeah, very early stages of the First World War, because there weren't even Royal Flying Corps.
That is absolutely remarkable. So what date would that be?
But you'd be looking at the beginning, probably 1914, something like that.
My goodness me.
And there's even a book from the stores that said that if you crash landed and you didn't get the watch out of the cockpit, you could be put on charge.
That's so British.
Yeah.
Never mind your legs.
And there's balsa wood and canvas.
And your legs have been blown off.
Yeah.
Get the watch, chaps.
So it must show how expensive they were. Because this is quality. It's a 30-hour zenith movement. I mean, it's very, very, very good quality.
Wow.
Standard.
I have never seen that before.
No.
This has got to be a very rare watch, but you're talking...
The turn up. Not hundreds, but it's not the first one that I've seen.
Okay.
I think because they've always been very good, that I think when the people decommissioned or whatever, they've probably used them, or they've just used them as a work watch, or left it on the side of the desk or something like that, and it runs. I mean, it's a brilliant movement in it, so it's running even now.
But you're
100 years old.
You're talking about objects that have more kind of historical value than monetary value, but
yeah.
I think this surely must have quite a big monetary value.
Not really. You usually see them around about £400 or £500, which is a lot of money, but it's not.
Not
for
the world
what it
watches.
is. No, not for what it is.
How very interesting. I don't mind saying I've never seen that before.
No, that's good. That's really what we're doing here, is just looking at things that you probably wouldn't look at. You wouldn't have looked at that in detail, really, would you? If you'd seen that in an auction somewhere or something, you just walk past it as an old black dial thing.
I would have done exactly
But
that.
it's steeped in history, wonderful history.
And it's the stories, Jonathan. That, I mean, they've really drawn you into this business, the tales behind.
Yes, yeah, definitely. You know, watchmaking it's always been important in times of war. We've got it with the Second World War with the ship's chronometers that were coming out, particularly from America, very, very high grade, because they were used to making high grade watches. We never think of America as particularly being great watchmakers, but they were. Which leads me on to this one.
Okay.
This is a Hamilton. Again, like the military watch, very easy to read.
Very big and bold, isn't it?
No frills, nothing on the front or the back. Strange thing with this is you can't set the time with the crown. Pull as hard as you like, you can't set the time. What you've got to do is take the bezel off, unscrew the bezel, and pull out a little lever on the side there,
Oh yeah.
and then you can alter the hands, clip it back in, put your glass back on, and there's a reason for that.
I was going to say, that sounds very complicated and unnecessary.
But it's very necessary because you couldn't risk catching the crown and moving the time, and the reason for that is this was used by the American Railroad, so everybody had to have exactly the same time.
Wow.
And it all came about because of a terrible disaster in about 1885 or something like that, a place called Kipton. Because in America in those days, they had single track. So one time you'd have one train going in that direction, another time it could be going in the other direction. One station master's clock had stopped about 10 minutes and he didn't realise, so he sent the train out too soon or too late, and they had a big collision, loss of life. It was a big thing. So from that day on, they set exacting standards that everybody working on the railroad must have. And these watches, they were expensive. You're expected to have one as a railroad worker, and they deducted the cost of it over a couple of years out of your wages.
I mean, that's a real vital bit of kit then, isn't it?
But yeah, and they're so accurate. They're an incredible piece of workmanship. And there were spot tests as well. Like, you're wearing a Ball watch. Webb C. Ball was the man who really set the standards for railroad accuracy and made his own run of watches, but also took the others in for servicing. So they give you a loan watch while your watch was checked and serviced, because it had to have exactly the same time.
I mean, literally people's lives depended on
In those days, yeah.
that watch.
Yeah. This is a later one. I think this is probably up to about the 1940s. But,
Same principle though.
yeah, same principle. And you look at the movement in these. I've seen military watches from the Navy, from the Royal Navy, with these American movements, because they were so good at getting the accuracy right down to within seconds per day. They were making all the marine chronometers for the ships so they could navigate with them. The industry was already there, so they could really crack on and get these watches out in big numbers.
That is fascinating. Value?
Value, similar to the other one. You see them anywhere between 300 to 1500.
Okay.
In fact, a few years ago, they were probably worth a bit more than they are now.
Okay, so it's like
So generations that are not sort of into this sort of thing. quite
okay.
So much.
Yeah, so the watch market fluctuates, as we know.
A little bit. Yeah, with
yeah.
pocket watches, generally very much so, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what's this third one here? This big lumper?
This is big lump. Again, nondescript, isn't it?
Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it is
It's
nondescript.
metal. It's not silver or anything
Okay,
like that.
so yeah, very basic. No makers.
No.
Nothing. I mean, quite elegant, but yeah, I would walk by it, and I would
Yeah,
say it
there's
had very little value.
You've got to push the button and look inside.
What are we looking at here then?
Look at the detail of the movement.
It's much more detailed than you'd expect.
Oh yeah, it's cut away. It's detailed. It's.
Well, why
You'll
is
see-
that? Bearing in mind it's such a plain case.
I think it's almost like a thing that you might boast about. It's a bit of prestige that the mechanism is more important than the watch. It's very ornate. You'll see that there's Chinese writing inside there, even though it's Swiss made. It's Swiss made, and it's retailed from a watchmaker in the UK. So we've got his name on the front there.
Which is who?
His name is Alex Ross & Co. And then Chinese on the back.
Oh my goodness me, I have a feeling I know where you're going with this. Okay,
Yeah.
continue, go on.
So they'd be traded through the East India Company.
Wow.
For, I don't know, for tea or whatever. You know that better than I do.
Absolutely. So the East India Company. So what is this? Earlier part of the 19th
I
century?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, so at that time, the East India Company were buying huge quantities of tea, of course. And the British government said to the East India Company, you've got to stop buying these commodities from China by using all of our silver, because that's what the Chinese wanted. And that because they said that before long the Chinese are going to have more silver than we've got,
That's
and they're
interesting.
going to beat us economically. Isn't that
fits
interesting?
bang on, because this isn't silver. So you've got a metal case, so they've bypassed the silver case
you
objection
go.
that might come and say, yeah, but look how detailed it is, look how shiny and how nice it is.
Isn't that fascinating? So that
So
yeah,
they've
so
used
these,
the movement, the decoration on the movement to show how special it is without using precious metal.
so
Because this is brass, it's not a gold movement, obviously.
so this is all about tea. This
Yeah.
is about the
Yeah, it is.
British
It's fascinating.
love of tea. So these watchers were buying canisters of tea.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, isn't
It
it?
is. It is. I wonder how much tea you got for one of those.
Quite a lot.
I don't think so.
Oh wow, Jonathan, that is absolutely fascinating.
You've only ever seen another one. I've seen obviously pictures of them, and then there was one in a museum in Switzerland, Silver Watch Museums I had a look in.
Oh my goodness me, that must have a decent value.
I've put it up to auction. I think I'm going to auction all of these off. We're going to talk about that another day, but I would expect, what was that going to do? I don't know, maybe £700-800 maybe on a good day.
But how fascinating. I mean,
Great bit of
you
history.
are.
Especially now you've told me about all the precious metal. It all makes sense now.
It really does,
Yeah.
yeah. But of course, then the Chinese didn't want watches anymore. They wanted opium, and that's another story.
I'll leave that to somebody else.
Jonathan, fantastic history lesson.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Thank you for helping me out and answering a few questions on that one.
Great to see you.
You too.